actually is our Father, and the Word is with us at the final judgment. At the final judgment, stated clearly in Matthew 25, the whole eschatology of the final judgment. How are we judged? Because we're rich? No. Because we're going to church on Sunday? No. Because we've done this or that? No. Because we have fed the hungry. We have clothed the naked. We have sheltered the homeless. We have visited the sick. We have educated the ignorant. Come, beloved, because whenever you did it for the least of mine, you did it for me. Okay? So basically, the final judgment is based on whether or not we have responded to the invitation. God is Father, and we are brothers and sisters in the Lord. How do we respond to that? And how do we show that that is not only a head trip, but that is also the reality? Okay, any comments or questions or insights, please?
The opportunities that God gives us through personal experience, do they come in patterns or like coincidences? Do they happen so you're aware of certain things at different, you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can respond. I think very often a lot of that depends on how aware we are. So in other words, God continually addresses us. But the more we're aware, the more we will realize what is happening. So in other words, if I'm paying attention, I'm trying to be sensitive to what the Lord is saying, I'm listening carefully, I become a careful listener, then I will probably pick up much more information than someone who's rather superficial and spending his time doing all kinds of small things, busy with all kinds of little things, not concentrating on anything of significance. So I think it's more depending upon how aware we are and how much listening we're actually doing. I think that's what makes us able to respond in a positive way, one way or another.
I always want to ask you this. Can God and evil coexist?
Can what?
God and evil coexist.
They do.
All right. Mm-hmm. So what happens when the listening in the human person, just because of life and death, gets so shut down? For instance, we know that goodness happens in the midst of evil. I'm just thinking the letters of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who goes over to, okay. Or Edith Stein, or just, I'm sure there were some even great people during the genocide in Rwanda. But we hear about those fragments afterwards, but then I kind of wonder, and you see this in different people's lives, it could be even your own, where something hits you and it's just so hard, and it's so bad, that you just lose your whole sense of God, period. What happens then?
Well, I think in every human being there is that dynamic tension, okay? Now it's at different levels. There are some people whose orientation is very positive and some others is very negative. So that exists all the time. That exists throughout the world. It exists in every human being. So it's a question of degrees. So it's always, how do I become more godlike? Or how do I become more loving? How do we explain God? God is love, okay? So how do I become more loving? What are the ways? What prevents me from being loving? Am I listening to what God's invitation to me? Am I responding to those invitations? And the more I respond, the more I'm going to be tempted to respond. And it's going to the easier it will be to respond. On the other hand, if I never respond, then it becomes more complicated, because then I'm living my selfishness. And so that's going to be my main orientation, because that's what I'm living all the time. So I think it's always a question of degrees. We're challenged all the time. Sometimes there are some situations that are horrible. You know, you say, how could this possibly happen? You know, this is so, you know. And some other times you see some extraordinary acts of love. There again, it's a direct response. So, yes, please.
If I leave this room today with anything, it will be a new phrase that I could verbally hammer into my children's head. When they were growing up, I often said, do good, avoid evil, patience is a virtue, and to get them into the restroom and clean their hands or wash their breath, I say cleanliness is close to godliness. So the new mantra that they will be hammered with is selflessness is close to godliness. So now I have 4, but I'm not going to have more children.
Drop the hammer.
Okay. Are we all right? Okay, that's all I have for today. So, if you want to come back next week, that's fine. And that'll be the last week. Try to find something. Next week, I'd like to stress a little bit the meaning of what it means if God is spirit, and how does that refer to us. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.